Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the Safe Clearwater virtual open house. This morning we are going to be speaking about segment 2, which is the Morain intersection and the Union intersection. My name is Holly Logan, and I am the project public involvement coordinator for this effort. Also with me today I have Lisa Schauer with McKay Esposito, Ryan Durham, project manager with the City of Kennewick, Brent Turley with the Transpo Group, and John Pascal, also with the Transpo Group. We will be recording this presentation so that it will be available on a later date on our website. Therefore, we will be holding questions until the end of the presentation, at which time we will unmute all participants. In the meantime, you can utilize the chat function that's available at the bottom of your menu, and you can type in questions at any time that we will address following this presentation. As the open house comes to a close, you will be prompted via email to complete a survey, and we encourage you to complete this as your feedback will add value to the study. At this time, I will pass it to Ryan Durham, who will give us some background on this project and where we are today.
All right, well, we appreciate you listening in, and I'd like to just kind of update you as far as the project background. And so we're looking, the City of Kennewick saw that there was a need on Clearwater because we were seeing through some of our analytical data that there was a lot of crashes, pedestrian accidents. We've had some issues with vehicle congestion, and so we felt that there was a need to address that. And so we approached the state and applied for a federal grant, and this grant is a safety grant, and we were awarded the grant for $2.12 million. And in this grant, we hired, as part of this grant, we needed to hire a consultant to take care of the analytical part of it and also the public involvement. So we went forward with some interviews, and we selected Transpo Group and as the primary, and McKay Esposito, who is handling the public involvement process. And so we had a team of experts assembled, and from about June 2013, we proceeded with starting the public involvement process. So our goal is for this project is to really determine what issues are at hand. And so that's the reason why we have Transpo and McKay Esposito in this process. So one of the things that, as part of this phase 1, that we needed to address first is really take a look at what are the issues, what are we having problems with on the corridor. And so, as you may have already seen, we've had a lot of issues with some of the intersections, crashes. We've had a lot of rear-end crashes that John Pascal is going to touch on a little bit. Also, with pedestrian usage along the sidewalks, we saw some issues with that. So they took a look at a lot of the accident reports and that information, and really are trying to determine a solution to mitigate some of the issues we're having. So as you can see, as far as the phasing, we have 3 phases. The phase 1 we're currently in, and we are pretty much wrapping up on the public involvement side of things, and as being the last open house, and getting the stakeholder feedback. And so that's, and then Transpo Group is handling the safety study and development plan. And our goal is to come up with what's called an access management plan, which will then be put forward to our city council, and they're going to eventually adopt this plan. And then after the plan, then we'll move into phase 2, which is design and right-of-way acquisition. And that will be based off of the priorities and also the final concepts, and then also what right-of-way is needed. And then once that's completed, we're looking probably about spring 2015 to start construction. So that will proceed then. And then also to keep in mind that this is based off of priorities that Transco Group has assembled, and also based off of our traffic engineer, John Deskins, who will give recommendation also to City Council what to proceed first, with what priorities first. And as far as project purpose, I just want to reemphasize that the identify immediate and long-term goal projects to improve safety for all users along the corridor. So really the city is seeing that need, and that's why we're proceeding with this, and you'll start seeing shovels in the ground hopefully by spring. So I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to John Pasco, who is the project lead, and he's going to discuss a little bit about what's going to happen. Before that, as you see the project schedule, you can see the progression of where we're at now and where we started. And right now you can see the third open house. And then we have scheduled also a council workshop in April to update council to prepare them for the upcoming approval of that project, that access management plan. And then once, again, like I had mentioned, that once we get that plan approved, then we can proceed with phase 2. So now I'd like to introduce to you John Pascal, our project lead.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. For those listening today and for those that will be listening in the days and weeks ahead, do want to provide a little bit of context on how we arrived at the improvement concepts that we're going to be showing today. Want to remind folks that we looked at the entire corridor, Clearwater Avenue corridor from US 395 to Leslie Road. It's approximately 5.5 miles in length. It includes a number of major intersections, a lot of commercial and residential driveways, and a bulk of the existing issues that we've seen today and in the past have been on the eastern end of the corridor from Columbia Center Boulevard to 395. So a lot of focus on those segments through this study process. But we're also looking at opportunities for further development along the corridor, making sure that we have a plan that is going to prevent some of the issues that we see today from occurring down the road. From an analysis standpoint, I want to give you a little bit of background on what we've done, everything that we've looked at, because that's really the basis for how we arrived at the improvements today. We really emphasized the safety evaluation, really dug deep into what has been occurring over the last 6 years. We've looked at that information. We've wanted to understand the types of collisions, where those collisions have occurred, and what are some of the contributing factors to those collisions. All that information provides us the ability to evaluate ways in which to potentially address those collisions and reduce the number that the corridor sees today. A lot of those collisions from this chart are rear-end collisions, and then there's right angle and approach turn collisions, and those are vehicles essentially either turning into driveways or turning out of driveways and colliding with oncoming vehicles in the travel lane. The other item that we looked at was the amount of activity along the corridor from both a traffic volume standpoint, but also bus activity and pedestrian activity, and then the operations at many of the major intersections and some of the major driveways along the corridor. And so we looked at delays that occur and what times of days those occur at, and then we looked at all the different turning movements that occur at these intersections and the distribution of traffic throughout the day, understanding how traffic changes as you go from the morning to midday to the PM peak hour, and making sure that any improvements that we identify address the needs throughout those time periods. We also surveyed the entire corridor, really focusing on the driveways, the numerous driveways that are located along the corridor. We looked at the driveways in the context of, are those driveways designed to appropriate design standards from a width standpoint, from a sight distance standpoint? How far away are they located from some of these major intersections where there's a lot of activity occurring? And then what's the history from a crash perspective? Are there some trends? And then from that, are there opportunities to consolidate driveways and or provide improved cross-access between properties to reduce the number of driveways and or realign them so that they are in a better position from driveways across the street? A lot of this project, a good portion of this project has been public involvement and really reaching out to the property owners, business owners, and residents that use this corridor on a daily basis. It's been a primary component. We've had a team that's been dedicated to listening and talking with stakeholders. Our database is almost 1,000 people, which is just a great, which we're pleased with. And we've also been tracking all the conversations and all the input that we've received from folks to date, and that's included input from the website, through email, through conversations we've had in person, through meetings, and so forth. Our team has walked the corridor, met with many of the stakeholders and public that live along this corridor, over 30,000 steps. We've also really identified some primary stakeholders that we've taken even, put more emphasis in reaching out to directly through phone calls and meetings. These stakeholders are stakeholders that potentially have direct impacts from some of the projects that we've been evaluating along the corridor. We've also been making sure that all the materials that we develop through this process are available on the website. We've been trying to get the word out the best we can to a broader audience, and so that's through, we've had great success in getting articles in the local newspapers, coverage on the local TV stations. We've also been able to get a lot of comments through the website and through email, and all those are really important to this project. And I'm going to be turning over to Brent Shirley here, who's going to describe the projects in more detail, but I would just say that all that input has been, we've tried to listen. I mean, we have listened. We've tried to incorporate as many comments as we can, or suggestions or ideas, into the projects themselves. So what you're going to see today are the outcomes from what we've heard from the stakeholders. And Brent's going to describe that more.
All right, thanks, John. So this webinar is focused on the areas around Union Street and then Morain. We have two other webinars that focus on the different sections of the corridor, one to the west and one to the east, but this particular webinar is focused on the middle section here. There are 4 different projects in this area that we've identified, and I will go through those. Just a general outline on how I approach each of these 2 areas. First, I will just describe some of the issues in the past, and I'll also go over the initial concepts a little bit to discuss what we presented to stakeholders previously, and then their feedback to those earlier concepts and how we've adjusted the concepts to meet the stakeholders' needs. And so we will start with with the Morain area.
And Brent, if I could interrupt, for those who joined us a little bit late, we just wanted to make sure that we let you know that we will be taking questions following the presentation. And if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat option to the bottom of your menu. So yes, please don't hesitate to type questions in, and we'll address those following the presentation.
All right. The Morain Street area. So as far as background, we looked at, as John mentioned, we looked at a variety of different things. For this particular intersection, there was a healthy number of accidents in this area. There was also some accidents associated with driveways on either side. One of the issues along this part of the corridor is along the frontage on the southeast side of the intersection, there's actually no sidewalk. One of the very few places in the whole corridor where there's no sidewalk. So that was a pedestrian safety issue that quickly rose to the top of that needed to be changed. There's also bus stops in these locations on either side of the roadway, and those can sometimes be issues with traffic flow and safety. The first project that we looked at is improvements on the east side of the intersection. When we first did some concepts along here, we actually we were changing some on-site circulation and some other elements. And when we talked with the stakeholders in this area, they were recommending a different approach. So we actually made some changes, and this is very similar to existing conditions on how it operates, but we were including some elements to really improve safety for a variety of different things. So on this particular project, what we have is obviously the addition of a sidewalk to complete the missing sidewalk section. To make that an even safer environment for pedestrians, and also to simplify some things, there were 4 different driveways along this section, and we are proposing to reduce those to 2 separate driveways and make this essentially operate as a one-way operation where somebody comes in and leaves. That's very similar to how it operates in existing conditions, so we're just confirming how it already operates. There would also be some concrete curbing here to not allow people making lefts into this driveway, because that could be confusing and lead to some further accidents in this area. So, but as far as on-site parking for this business, it's very similar to existing conditions. We did make a few changes to allow for better circulation, but for the most part, there's not a lot of changes. On the north side of this leg, this driveway to this driveway right here would be reduced to a right-in, right-out, given this concrete curbing. But then this driveway to the east would be a full access. So this is Project 105. Now, on all the projects, we are listing a cost and then a ranking, and I'll discuss how the ranking came about. But this ranking will be used to determine which projects that will be likely go first from a technical basis, and when these projects get discussed with the City Council, that ranking may change slightly. The top part is the costs associated. And some of the projects are relatively cheap from a roadway improvement perspective, and some not so much, and that also plays into the ranking. All right. The next project is 106, which is the other side of the intersection. The other side of the intersection, we're showing similar things, again, trying to reduce the number of driveways, or at least the full access driveways, too close to this intersection. That helps with rear end accidents and some T-bone type accidents in this area. So on this side, we are adding some concrete curb to limit access to this driveway to the south. There's still existing conditions. There's a driveway here. Let me grab the highlighter. There is a driveway already existing here, and that driveway will not go away. It will be reconfigured somewhat, but it will be a right-in, right-out driveway. To the same, for the same property, there's still a full access to the back entrance here, and then there would the main entrance to the site would be proposed to be right here, and the parking would be reconfigured to accommodate these new access points. So in addition, this would also allow, we're proposing a right turn lane that would add some capacity at this intersection. Again, with increased capacity, the idea is to help eliminate some of the rear-end collisions that sometimes happen when the capacity is not sufficient. We would also add some sidewalk, or add the sidewalk to this area to complete this section. So we have sidewalk all for both sides of Morain. We would adjust there is an existing bus shelter in this location, approximately here. We would shift that back a little bit to be out of the right turn lane, and that would allow, and so that would accommodate the transit users in that area. This particular project is ranked lower than the other one. It's ranked 11th out of 13, and has a cost of $23,000. $230,000. Thank you. All right. That is the Morain area projects. The next area that we're going to talk about is the Union Street area, and this is one of the higher priorities of the corridor for many reasons. One is the number of accidents. There's a significant number of accidents at this intersection, one of the top 3 in the whole corridor. There's also a significant number of accidents on either side of this intersection, but more particularly on the west side, associated with the Walmart, or the Winco access here, and some of these other numerous driveways in this location. Now, there's also a bus stop in this same location where there is a past pedestrian fatality. So this section, particularly in this area, is got quite a bit of going on, and that's contributing to the problems, that the safety problems in the area. And so our solutions are trying to simplify this area for all users, and with that simplicity, hopefully that would improve the safety. The other area, on the other side of the intersection, we do have some opportunities for some improvements with driveway designs, and I will be highlighting those with the projects. So Project 107 is dealing with the east side of the intersection. And this is actually one of those projects where we're looking at trying to deal with existing issues. There's lots of driveways along this corridor, along this section of the roadway on the north side. And there's a potential for redevelopment for this side and an opportunity for an access point here. With that opportunity comes the opportunity on the south side. There's currently an area that could be redeveloped into an access to make this a full access at this location. And what this would allow is full access for all of these properties, both on the east and west of this area, to access and have a good full access that is sufficiently with a sufficient distance away from the Union's traffic signal, and that would allow better operations and safety. With this improvement, a concrete curb would go in at this location to turn this driveway into a right-in and right-out location. Other benefits are there's some driveways both close by that would be consolidated with this area, and with that consolidation, it would actually improve some number of parking stalls that would be allowed for those sites. So this particular project is relatively low cost and provides a lot of benefits to the people both on the south side and on the north side of this this leg of the intersection, and it actually ranked, came out to be ranked #1 in all the rankings. The next project, Project 108, is on the opposite side, basically incorporates the opposite side of the intersection and the intersection itself. Now this particular project, we're dealing with two different things at the same time. The first thing is the intersection itself is, there's lots of accidents associated with the intersection itself. And a lot of those were rear-end type crashes. And again, it's going back to a capacity issue. This intersection needs to have some more capacity. And so one of the proposals is to increase the number of turn lanes, north-south. There'll be dual left turn lanes at this intersection. In addition, the right turn lane and a separate eastbound right turn lane and a westbound right turn lane are added to this intersection. There's also in existing conditions, there's a sweeping right turn lane that currently exists on the southwest corner, and that has contributed to some of the accidents in the area. And this project would remove that sweeping right turn and replace it with a more traditional right turn lane, further helping some safety concerns and merging. So that at the intersection, there's quite a bit of capacity there to be improved. With the area to the west, there's also some quite a bit of improvements to solve some of the issues. The first and foremost, the bus stop is proposed to move from its current location, which is approximately in this area, is being moved to a bus pullout over in front of Winco. That gets it out of a very congested area in this section and helps improve some operations and add some capacity to the corridor with the buses out of the main line. The other thing is there's quite a bit of accidents from the Winco driveway of people turning south and to the east, that southbound left. And so one of the things that is being proposed is a concrete curb along here to prohibit people from making that movement. And in the southbound, it would be a right-in, right-out driveway. People making left out from Winco can shift either to the signal that currently exists at Yost, or they can travel up to Union Street and come out to this new double left turn lane to get out. So there's ample opportunities elsewhere for them to use. When we first met with stakeholders on this site, we actually proposed a concrete curb to go all the way the full length of this section. And when we talked to the stakeholders, they very much did not appreciate having the access limited in this area, and we're pretty unanimous about not restricting access in this manner. So one of the takeaways is we actually have taken that concept off the table and are only having the restriction right here in front of the Winco. There's actually a full access intersection and driveway at this location where people can all movements are allowed at this location. By allowing this, all properties now can have this access to get out to Clearwater, both left out and left in. To make this work, though, we did consolidate driveways. There is a driveway here that is no longer proposed. It would be combined with this new realigned driveway here. There's also a couple driveways in these locations that would be removed and consolidated so that it can use this full access over here, or they could go down and access on Union directly and use the signal for a full access. So based off of all the feedback we got, these are the proposed concept improvements. Lots of added capacity in the area. There's still full access allowed for the businesses both on the north and south. There is fewer driveways, which helps simplify some things as far as traffic goes and make things safer. And there are some added bonuses of additional parking with this removal of the sweeping right turn lane that these businesses might be able to pick up from this improvement. So that and this project, because it solves so many different issues with safety issues and capacity issues, it did actually rank quite one of the higher ranking ones, even though it does have a larger cost. And the larger cost may push it down the rankings ultimately, because one of the goals of the city is to try to get as much safety throughout the corridor as quick as possible. And so while this ranked really high, the cost may mean it may not happen next year, but maybe soon thereafter. So the one last thing to bring up is, like John mentioned earlier, we did look at all the driveways along the corridor and gave them some scores and some ratings, and basically for later reference. And as sites redevelop or as opportunities come up, these other driveways or other locations along the corridor may see some improvements associated with the project, or just as part of the overall plan for the future. The city also is planning to do some lighting improvements, adding some street lights in certain areas, also traffic signal, minor traffic signal improvements. And in addition, there might be several locations where we add mid-block pedestrian crossings that have flashing beacons for high visibility along the corridor to improve access to transit stops in the area, or just general crossing, safer crossing for pedestrians. And there's about 6 or 7 locations for those being looked at. So the final thing that we're going to discuss is just the project prioritization itself, the process that we went through. When we were looking at project prioritization, we had 4 major categories. The first one was safety. Basically, if there's lots of accidents and the project helped improve general safety characteristics of the area, it ranked higher, got a higher score. Operations. If the improvement project helped improve mobility for traffic along the corridor and also helped improve access to businesses, or didn't, this is important to know, if accesses were not unduly restricted, it had a higher score. So if there was too many restrictions, it got a lower score. The third category is whether it had public support. And if it had a lot of public support, it got a higher score. If it was more of a mixed bag, then the score wasn't as high. And then finally, whether the costs were high or low. If it was higher cost, it got a lower score. So the lower cost projects were ranked higher. For this particular webinar, we discussed 4 different projects. These red arrows on the left side show where those projects show up. And so 2 of the projects ranked very high in the corridor. The top one was 107 at Union. Well, basically both of the top ones were at Union. The ones at Morain were middle of the pack or near the bottom. This middle of the pack one was the one on the east side of the intersection, the one that had the new sidewalk. And so that's how projects are. We prioritize the projects. The city will take this information and look at it, and there may be some adjustments of how the projects shake out in their prioritization, but this gives the initial reading from a technical perspective. So I will turn the time over to Lisa to talk about what comes next in the project.
Thanks, Brent. So you've had an opportunity to look at some of the projects within this segment, and the total amount of projects within this Clearwater study is 13. So all 13 of those projects will be incorporate it into an access management plan document, and that'll be presented to the City Council. As Brent mentioned, it's a roadmap, so it's not only projects that we hope to see some changes made to the existing traffic flow, but also future development, making sure that that aligns with this plan. And the stakeholder input has been critical as we both prioritize as well as refine each of these design concepts. So we've appreciated your feedback. We'll move forward with Phase 2 and Phase 3, the city will. And as Ryan mentioned, the first construction project won't likely occur before the spring of next year, spring of 2015. We are going to give an update to the City Council as to the progress we've made on this project with your help. And that next City Council meeting will be April 22nd. So we'd love to have your feedback, wrap up this third open house series by the end of March. So if you could provide any feedback via website, certainly we'll take questions right now with the webinar, through the webinar. We also have up on the screen all of our contact information. So again, we really appreciate and thank those that have participated. It has helped us to create a project that we believe will benefit the community greatly. Holly, do you want to wrap up with the webinar and facilitate the questions?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. So that concludes our presentation, and we do have a few questions that have been presented that we can ask the project team. So how long will the project take? And when will the project begin? I'm assuming this is a question regarding construction.
Yeah, construction. We're anticipating as early as, like Lisa had mentioned and I had mentioned before, is that hopefully spring of 2015 would be the soonest we can start construction. And as far as how long the project would take, depends on the priorities and also the type of project in the priorities. So it'll be based on that. So I don't have a timeline as far as how long it will take. We've had, give you some examples for projects that are very similar. Usually they'll take between 3 months, maybe to 6 months, depending on the complexity of the project. Hopefully that answers your question.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And then also, are you concerned at all about the interruption in service at the business locations and or permanent sales loss due to closing the entrances for some of these businesses?
We realize this is, yes, thank you, Holly. Yes, we realize as a city that it's very, since Clearwater being such a sensitive area for businesses and to keep the businesses operating with minimal interruptions is our goal as a city. We'll work closely with all the stakeholders during construction. We'll give some prompt notices and also give you a timeline and work with you very closely during construction, so there's minimal interruptions to business operations.
And wouldn't you say, Ryan, also that as we take these concepts further into design, that construction impacts are going to be addressed in detail as part of that process to really try to minimize any disruption? Yes.
You've got a good point. We will definitely address that during even design and then into construction. Typically in our process is that we make sure to get in contact with the stakeholder or the property owner, address any concerns, and then we'll proceed and make sure to coordinate with the contractor to make sure that they're in communication with the property owner, and also our city inspector We'll make sure that the contractor is following through with some of the obligations, with some of the time schedules.
Okay. Great. Are there any additional questions from any of the attendees? And if so, please use your chat option at the bottom of the screen of your menu. Okay. So just a reminder, if you have any additional comments or questions, feel free to reach out to us via our project website at safeclearwateravenue.com, or you can reach us via our hotline, which is posted here on the screen. And I will also just remind you again that you will be prompted to complete a survey that you will receive via email at the end of this presentation as we close. So please complete that survey, as your feedback is very valuable as we move forward. And we thank you very much for attending